Welcome to the Salty Investors episode number 66. It is Thursday, February 15th. How's it going, Tim?
Yeah, pretty good. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Can't complain. But I will complain about this. This is my salt for the week. Queensland Premier Stephen Miles took the art of virtue signalling to a whole new level last week. I still can't believe he actually admitted to doing this. On X, he wrote, "I've written to the big banks urging them to start lowering interest rates as soon as possible. Queenslanders are feeling the impact of 13 increases to interest rates by the Reserve Bank. Now that inflation is coming down, interest rates should start coming down too, because Stephen Miles says so. And the big banks should act just as quickly to lower rates as they did to raise them." So Miles doesn't seem to understand how interest rates are set by banks, nor does he seem to understand how reality works. I mean, is this how you do policy now? Is he going to write letters to criminals urging them not to cause crime because Queenslanders have been feeling the impact of crime? Yeah, but as they say, we get the politicians we deserve.
Yep. Yeah, well, all these people seem like they want to nationalize the banks somewhere along the line. That's what they're sort of leading to. That's what they honestly think. What they think they can set interest rates. These people who can't balance a budget or, do anything on time, what government service do you think, should they be running our money as well? Like, this is ridiculous, So
look, banks get it wrong, but they do understand. I mean, they run billions and billions of portfolios of home loans. They know who's a risk and they know who isn't, and maybe they're a bit too conservative and they probably could lend to some that they don't, and they do lend to some that they shouldn't because people lie. We know this now from surveys. Most people lie to some extent on their fucking home loan applications. But, I mean, they kind of understand risk. I think they do. This is their sort of, you might say the US banks lost the plot back in the financial crisis. Ours didn't. They didn't do too bad at all. I mean, the idea that this is the art of looking like you're doing something when you're absolutely doing nothing. That's what it is. I mean, and that's what our politicians do these days. I think they won't actually do anything bold or some radical policy. They'll just say a bunch of shit and then do nothing. Right?
Well, there's a heap of stuff he can do. Like, get rid of stamp duty. Like there's one thing straight off the bat that'll help. He could, increase, put pressures on the council to rezone land. He can do that tomorrow, like he's in power. There's only one house in Queensland. His group decided to do it. It's law. So
no, but what we will do is we'll up the home buyer's grant, which actually just goes on top of the price of the house and does nothing to bring down home prices because they're morons. Anyway, what are you salty about this week, Tim?
Junk food has been banned from school canteens for a while. But what is classed as junk food? It's getting confusing. Muesli bars are allowed, but not muesli bars with a few choc chips on top. Or vanilla custard is allowed, but not chocolate custard. Should juice be banned due to its high sugar content? Well, WA has now banned the ham and cheesy toasty. Clearly, this is not a super healthy option, but totally banning it? Is this the right approach, or are they just being lazy? Have you heard about this?
Yeah. No, it doesn't surprise me. But see, this is another example, a good example of sort of not tackling big problems, but just tackling like these silly little issues, like, hey, reducing the size of, like, I'm thinking about the UK because they're way further down the road on this stuff, so they reduce the size of every individual chocolate in a box of Rose's chocolates, because this is going to make people eat less chocolate. I mean, it's just stupid and dumb. I mean, what's wrong with a toasty? Does every single thing? I mean, what should we just sell carrot and celery sticks? Is that it? And water, yeah. I mean, they'll ban bread soon, because that a toasty. Yeah, they'll ban bread because I don't know, too much carbs or something.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with having some restrictions, but a total ban isn't the sort of winning formula that's worked in society. Take example drugs. We've sort of banned them, and unless you've got really strict, laws on it, it sort of doesn't work. So
No.
total, you need to have education and a heap of reasoning and promote moderation. So I don't know. I think they're trying to take parents' responsibilities into the school again. I think is probably the bigger issue here. Like they're trying to take over the role of parents, and food choices is probably one of the last bastions of parents. So.
Yeah, but I mean, that's strange though. I mean, so you're allowed to have vanilla custard, but not chocolate custard. I mean, surely the flavors of no importance. It's how much sugar's in it. And I would expect that it's probably the same amount of sugar in both, right? I mean, they're just artificial flavors at the end of the day anyway.
That's right.
So,
bit of cocoa powder on top of your custard, that's not going to make much difference at all. So, but it's the sight, it looks like it's chocolate, and chocolate's bad and evil. Obviously, we can't allow it. We don't want people looking like they're having a good time. That's even worse than people having a good time. So yeah, I don't know. It just seems a bit lazy to me, and I think they just need to do a bit harder and think about it a bit more. That's all.
Yep. All right, let's move on. We got some econ data came in today in Australia. Now, what did I say, Tim? I said we're going to hit 4% unemployment by the end, and I was a month late. It happened in January. We got the January figures today. 4.1% unemployment. This is not a surprise. I mean, this is what you call the lagging effect of monetary policy, I would say. Mostly, we're starting to feel it. We talked about retail sales last week. December retail sales seasonally adjusted were smashed. But we have to remember that the economy is not the stock market, because retail stocks have just been pretty much going up. Doesn't matter what happens. And we should get some more reports next week. We had Nick Scali last week. We didn't get many this week, but I think a lot of the discretionary retailers, are going to report next week. So that should be interesting. Also, though, under this, because, let me go back. The unemployment rate's a function of how many people are actually looking for work. So the unemployment rate can go up just because more people start looking for work that weren't, because you're not counted as unemployed unless you're looking for work. But so more evidence that the labour market is deteriorating is hours worked. So right. And that's clearly rolled over. The trend and the seasonally adjusted are both rolled over.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, you would expect. I haven't even looked at anybody's forecast for unemployment. I don't know what the Reserve Bank is saying, but I mean, 5% by the end of the year. Who knows? I don't know. It could easily get there. And good to remember. I just went back and had a look at 20. Like
19.
Yeah, 19. I mean, 5% unemployment was fine. There's nothing wrong with 5% unemployment. And in fact, if you could take 5% unemployment across all of history, you'd take it, right? I mean, you would. 5% is not bad. It just looks, it's like the interest rates, like the RBA is at 4.3%. It only feels bad because we came from zero.
I know.
0.1.
Well, people know it's possible now to have lower unemployment rates. So it is quite true to adjust the expectations, but a whole 200 basis points, I think, is a bit rich. So
yeah. So at 5% unemployment, it's not like the economy's collapsing. It's pretty healthy employment rate. So this was the CPI came out in the United States, and oh my God, it was 0.3% for the month instead of the expected 0.2%, and the stock market melted down. Interest rate cuts have been pushed out. My God. 0.2 is an annualized 2.4, 0.3 is an annualized 3.6. My God. And the all items less food and energy is almost still at 4. So, as we've been saying, this might take a little bit longer because it doesn't go down in a straight line. And I thought this was an interesting chart. This next one, this guy does a fair bit of macro stuff. He posts a lot of it. And he said, this is the super core inflation that Powell, this is what the Fed's interested in, Every Fed seems to have a little fetish on something. Now, this is theirs. So, yeah, it's slowed down towards 3% towards the end of last year. It's now accelerated to 5.5%. So, I mean, if this is what the Fed is looking at, they're not going to be I don't think
6
they're
cuts
going
this
to be
year.
that quick. Yeah. Is that what's priced in? Is it or
Well, not now. Like now it's
yeah?
like, yeah, well, there's 2 gone
It
straight off the
was.
bat. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like so
Yeah.
probably down to 3 or 4. If the story
Yeah.
holds up, if this just keeps, niggling in the same direction, it's not going in the right direction. The trend's not with us. That's what
Yeah.
they're worried about. The market's so worried about the trend. The trend is nothing. It's fairly flat. Come on, like it's
Yeah.
not that bad.
Well, I just think a lot of people, even professional economists, just get in their head. They see a trend and they just extrapolate. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
they do, right? And then they get caught out. I mean, I still think inflation's trending down, but it doesn't go down the straight line. It can zigzag all over the place.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on, and yeah, the market tanked, and then the next day it went back up again, and so I guess it's fine now. I mean, tell me, markets are efficient again. Yeah, they're
Well,
fucking
Bitcoin
geniuses.
tanked at 49 grand, and then it's back to 42 grand 24 hours later.
Well, there you
Just
go.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
what the hell's this? Like,
Yeah, that's right. Well, I have to think about this because I think I threw this in about 5 days ago when I saw
okay.
it. So now, oh yeah, this is from GMO actually.
Okay.
GMO
Oh,
just
nice.
had something that just came out. The continued unrelenting performance of very large companies has led the S&P 500 to become significantly more concentrated over the decade. The top 7 names in the index comprise 28%, up from 13% a decade earlier. The S&P's total concentration, which can be measured using a Herfindahl-Hirschman index, yeah, we all use those, is equivalent today to that of an equal-weighted 59 stock portfolio. 10 years ago, the index was more than twice as diversified. So that 59 is a measure of concentration.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, it's just this. So I guess it was more concentrated this would be the
Yeah,
Nifty
that's what.
50 period, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
look at the 2000s there. I thought it was
Yeah.
highly concentrated there, but obviously I'm, not thinking right.
But remember,
So,
even though tech was exploding, it still was, a lot
broad.
of these companies were in, I mean, Amazon might have been going up, but it was still a very small company at the time, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And the big companies were, what were they at that time? The General Electrics of the world.
Cisco, those sort of companies, but
Yeah.
yeah, but like you said, it was a lot of small cap. They're just pets.com.
Banks. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
And what they say, 10 years ago, the index was more than twice. We have never seen over any 10-year period a decline or increase in diversification of the magnitude we've just witnessed. So I don't know, make of that what you will. As a general rule, you want market advances to be broad.
Yep.
You don't want them to be narrow and concentrated. I thought this was interesting. Microsoft versus the energy sector.
Crazy, isn't it?
And the cash flow part of that, 135 billion in annual free cash flow from the energy sector. So, I mean, now that can make sense if energy is coming off and Microsoft is, but it is an interesting contrast. And again, it may just be that the expectations built into Microsoft are overdone and the energy sector is underdone, or I don't know.
Well, Chris
Just thought it
Holm,
was interesting.
one of the biggest, he just purchased Microsoft, and so like
just now,
now,
oh, what a fucking genius! But he didn't buy it in 2022.
I know, it's just like, well, so I don't know. It looks brilliant now, Microsoft. It just keeps looking brilliant, and it's not it doesn't look that expensive on a multiple basis. You sort of, I could sort of handle that, but there's a lot of growth baked in there to go forward. So, but you can see what Warren Buffett's fishing in the thick and energy pool. Like, look at a graph like
value
this.
is.
Yeah. Like, just where's all the money? Like, all us idiots think we can, pick something, and he's going, well, look at the fundamentals, you idiot. Like,
Yeah, well, him. He'd just be looking at the cash flows and going, yep, that's where I want to be. Because that's at the end of the day, that's what a stock is. The value of a stock is its discounted cash flows delivered into your hands over time as a shareholder. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
That's all it's about.
And he can look out 5 years or 10 years. Like, it's not the end of the world in 5, 10 years for oil or gas, so yeah. So what's his mystery stock? I still think it's some energy company, I still think even something that's probably a bit small, and he doesn't want anybody, knowing about it. But yeah. But
yeah, very interesting. I don't know how this resolves. What do we got here? So this week, Tim, he's left Australia, can't handle it anymore.
Yep.
It's Unilever.
Yeah, well, just about everyone knows Unilever due to their iconic brands. Dove soap, for example, is a little luxury. It's like crack cocaine for ladies. The last few years, they've been buying huge amounts of brands, clearly overpaying and not disclosing sales or purchase prices. So clearly some dodgy management. Heads have rolled in management recently and key possessions. So CEO and CFO, and new management is looking promising. Terry Smith is sniffing around, and Nelson Peltz has got a seat as backing these changes. Let's look at the fundamentals. Shares outstanding have had huge dilution due to the reckless acquisitions from the previous CFO and CEO. So, but we've got to look forward. We don't look in the rearview mirror. On a PE and price to free cash flow basis, it's never been cheaper compared to the last 6 years. Return on invested cap looks like it's heading back into the 20s. So great. Margins have been damaged by commodity inflation, but look like they're stabilizing. Growth has been very weak. It's got a large dividend with a large payout ratio, which is a concern. Heaps of cash to cover current liabilities. So we flip over to the balance sheet and cash flow. They have a net debt of 21 billion, which is large, but 19 billion is in long-term debt. So we're not worrying about this tomorrow. Free cash flow is about 5 billion. So, they could do it reasonably. A large amount of debt has them in a hole. At least they've stopped digging now, making it worse. It will take them 5 or 6 years to eat into that debt, assuming that they don't increase the dividend too much. Revenue growth has been poor, even when they've juiced the numbers with acquisitions. But I think 5% going forward is a fair number, which means the price to free cash flow 10 is reasonable. Currently it's 16, so the price needs to drop by about 30%. Trailing 12 months revenue is about 14%, but I think that will drop as soon as they clear out some of the malinvestment. But if management can keep the existing brands going and they get 8%, today's price is fairly fair. I class it as a clear tier 2 company like Procter & Gamble, which is similar in numbers. You wouldn't think management could blow up a golden goose like Unilever, but it is possible. Let's see if they can revive the goose. What do you think of Unilever?
I mean, it's uninspiring, those growth numbers. So your thesis here is that new management's going to turn the ship around. I'm always skeptical of that one. I mean, and at the end of the day, this is just a large conglomerate that's going to grow, hopefully slightly better than average and eke out good returns.
But they're not going to do 10%. Okay, that's pretty much off the cuts. Okay,
no, that's what I mean. Like if nominal revenue growth is 6%, that's an average. If you can squeeze out 7 or 8, you're doing great.
Yeah.
For a company this size.
Yeah. But if they get that, the price today is fair. If they get 7 or 8%, that's, they're doing pretty good. And this is the sort of thing in a downturn which I think will continue to do well. Like, it's not like this is going to get hit.
Yeah.
You're not going to pick this up at a 50% discount in a recession. Like, ladies are still going to buy Dove soap, and they're still going to be buying.
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay.
I don't know. Did you see the recent campaign? They used a trans woman to promote Dove soap, and there's been a whole boycott Dove thing online. But I mean, if you're a woman and you like Dove soap, I don't think that's going to necessarily stop you from buying it.
It's not as shameful as a beer. You're going out for having a beer, Budweiser at the pub. That's a bit more extreme. So having Dove soap at home, I don't think is too full on. But just look at those brands. Like, they're pretty top shelf. Yeah, and they've got Ben and Jerry's and stuff. Some high end sort of higher end type
So
stuff.
they don't mind a good virtue signaling company, do they?
Yeah,
Ben
yeah.
and Jerry's, run by two of the biggest wankers on the planet.
Yeah. So you can see why Terry's sort of like, but when management changes and they've said, each business unit is going to have to stand on its own 2 feet. So we're not going to have like Dove financing some Korean beauty brand that just became famous in the last 2 years, and then they pay some huge number for it, and then it just disappears. It's not a national, international brand.
Yeah.
Like if they can stop all that acquisition junk.
I thought we learnt these lessons. The older I get, you just realize these things just go in cycles. So the idiots that just run around buying up things to get bigger and make it look like they're actually growing the company. I mean, years ago it was sort of like, oh, this is completely wrong, or we should go the organic growth method, only make acquisitions where it makes sense strategically. And I don't know, it just comes back around the cycle. Some moron comes in, yeah, let's buy that and that and that. Let's dominate the whole space. Doesn't matter what we pay for it.
Yep.
Debt's cheap.
That's right. Yeah, but then the cycle turns a little bit, and
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still not convinced. I want to be picking this. This is also in the UK as well. No one likes the UK at the moment.
Well, they've got Bovril there. I see Bovril. I mean, that's how old's that? That's drinking that during the Second World War.
Yeah. So like it's a few older brands there, but I'm pretty sure these guys are going to be around if I look out 20 years. Like,
yeah,
I can see Dove and Lipton tea. Yep, that's still going to be around, and I think people are still going to be drinking it. So
yeah. Oh, it'll be around. It's just what do you pay for it? And I think you want to get it to a pretty decent discount, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so 10 price to free cash flow 10 is my sort of number. I think, but I want to see that growth number. If that can tick that on a little bit, and management actually is honest and got some integrity, and maybe Terry takes a nibble as well, I'll be like, well, Nelson's in there and he's sort of shaking things up. Nelson Peltz, he really, shakes up the cage a little bit. And so if he leaves, it's basically over and done with, but that's the time for retail to go in. All the hard work's been done. So it's a turnaround, like you said. So be wary.
Yep. There you go, people. Take a look at Unilever, turnaround story or not. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you next time.